All right, welcome to this week's Pac-12 recap and preview for this coming weekend. We're going to start off with the number 5 ranked Washington Huskies against the Arizona State Sun Devils. And Arizona State really put it to the Huskies all game until
Yep.
that fourth quarter. Michael Penix Jr. has 2 interceptions, plus I believe there was one fumble there. What did you see out of that game? And, is UW in potential trouble here?
I wouldn't necessarily say that they're in potential trouble, but this tells me how real that Oregon defense is. Penix looked beat up. He looked hurt. He obviously had gotten hurt in that Oregon UW game. He was constantly grabbing his ribs. They said the reason that they didn't have a quarterback sneak play on when he was right up front, right on the goal line, is because of how bad his ribs were beat up and how bad that Oregon defense was getting to him. I think it's a little bit of a hangover, right? You go from the mountaintop, you won a rivalry game that was top 10. Now everyone is kissing your butt saying, hey, you are the toast of the town. You're the big deal. You don't practice as hard that week. You're going up against Arizona State. They're the worst team in the Pac-12. And then all of a sudden, that little Pac-12 after dark, that's when that magic starts getting sprinkled on you. And that's when you get put in a close one. Now, I'm not here to blame officiating. I think that's lame if you do that. I don't think this was a great officiated game. There were bad calls. Arizona State fans are going to talk about the Muhammad grabbing of the Arizona State jersey, the wide receiver that didn't get called. He didn't get a defensive PI. Definitely believe that there should have been a defensive PI there. But you'll forget, UW in the first half, you had a wide receiver running all by himself. And then all of a sudden he is tackled by 2 Arizona State defenders before the ball even gets there. No flag there either. So at least it was a bad officiated game, but you can say it was evenly officiated bad, which is all you can kind of ask for in those situations. And I just think that this was a game that UW sleepwalked through. They just were at their highest high. It's the ultimate letdown spot, and they let down. If they don't have a key pick six in their own red zone, they lose this football game. But if you're a Pac-12 fan, they had to win this football game. Just survive and advance and stay undefeated. Give yourself that wiggle room because a one-loss Pac-12 team will get into the playoff, I believe. So as a Pac-12 fan, you have to be thankful that UW was able to stay where they were.
And a crazy stat is that the Sun Devils had beaten the Huskies 13 out of 15 times this century. So
Wow.
you had to kind of expect Arizona State to put up
Right.
a game against the Huskies like this, even if it doesn't really make that much sense.
Right. Well, and Dillingham is one of those offensive minds that I think he just sits in his house, doesn't talk to his wife, girlfriend, whatever. And I think he just sits there and doodles and makes crazy plays. When he was at Oregon, he was running tight end jet sweeps. Every single week, there was a new trick play, there was a new gadget. Every single thing that he does has 2 or 3 options. So he lets the defense kind of pick their own death. Of course he's going to have something drawn up. It's going to be funky. It's going to be weird. It's the ultimate Pac-12 after dark game. You have a team that just got done with the highest of highs. You have a team that couldn't be lower. Everyone's overlooking. The team that's coming in that's the top dog just got really beat up in the game before. They're not really caring. Fans aren't out there. They'd rather be at the bar than at the game because, maybe they have a chance to go meet up with some girls or some guys, whatever, right? It's the perfect formula for a Pac-12 team to lose that game, and I'm just thankful that UW was able to hold on, and hopefully this is a wake-up call for them because they have a lot of tough games still left on their schedule. They still have to play USC. They still have to play Oregon State. There's even a possibility that they might have to play USC, Oregon State, or Oregon again at a Pac-12 championship. So hopefully this, kind of wakes them up and gets them back to where they were. But you can definitely tell that Oregon game, it took a toll on that UW team physically.
Speaking of Oregon, Oregon played the Washington State Cougars in Eugene.
Mhm.
They ended up pulling it off 38-24 in Eugene. Cameron Ward threw for 438 yards,
Yeah.
averaging 9.1. He had 1 touchdown. Bo Nix set the mark for the most career starts in NCAA football. Bucky Irving ran all over the Cougars with 129 yards. Jordan James added 103 yards. What did you see in this game?
I saw 2 running backs that might have the best vision right now in college football. Maybe that's a bit of hyperbole, but you can tell Jordan James, he's a young kid. He was the short down and distance back last year for Oregon. This is one of the recruits that Lanning took with him from Georgia to come and play with him here at Oregon. And what I've always said about Bucky Irving is his vision and ability to set up his blocks. He knows where offensive linemen have their aiming points, right? When an offensive lineman goes to block a linebacker, they're told, hey, you're aiming, you want to be head up on this one. Hey, you want to be on that backside number. Hey, you want to be on that front side number. Bucky Irving understands that, and not all running backs do. And you'll see situations where you go, oh, well, why didn't that offensive lineman block? Well, you go back and you watch the all-22, and the running back is running right on the track where he should be, and then at the last moment, he sees green grass, so he bolts to the right. Well, that offensive lineman, he's going for a certain aiming point. If he doesn't see, he's not going to see that running back bolt to the right because the running back's behind him. That linebacker is just going to bolt out of nowhere, and half the time those running backs are bolting to green grass where the offensive lineman wants to block that linebacker anyways. So you see a lot of times where you'll go, it was a 4-yard gain, but if that offensive lineman blocked that linebacker, it would have been a 20-yard gain. And I would contend, as an offensive line apologist, that's on the running back because he jumped out when the O-lineman didn't see it, so the O-lineman doesn't get to his landmark, doesn't get to his aiming point, and now everyone's yelling at the offensive lineman. That's something that Bucky Irving doesn't do, and with Noah Whittington being out, Jordan James getting more and more starts, he's starting to understand that as well. And so you're starting to see these big breakaway runs for both Irving and for James because they're able to get their linemen onto WSU and other Pac-12 linebackers so that there's big holes, big space, and then they can get into the green grass and start using their speed to beat safeties and to beat DBs as opposed to trying to beat linebackers when they can work smarter, not harder, and just use those offensive linemen. From WSU's standpoint, I felt like Cam Ward had a good game. Now, the stats are going to tell you he had a great game. He had issues when it came to inside the red zone. He wasn't able to finish. When you have 400 yards, you should have more than one touchdown, right? A lot of what he was making work for him were these like little 5, 6, 7-yard slants to Lincoln Victor. I think Lincoln ended the game with like 16 catches or something ridiculous like that.
16 for 161.
Right. And Oregon was fine with that. Have these short little catches because our defensive line is eventually going to beat you. In that game, I believe Oregon ended up having 5 or 6 total sacks, and then they added in another 6 or 7 tackles for loss. So when you start having these big plays where you're getting sacks on Cam Ward, you're getting these big tackles for loss, that's fine. Have the 6-yard catch. It's 3rd and 16. It's 4th and 10 now. You have to punt. And so on this Oregon defensive side, you saw a lot of young defensive linemen, Purchase, Uyunglele. They had sacks in this game. They had tackles for loss. That's huge as you see that growth. So now you're not just relying on Dorless and on Birch to have – you're not just relying on one side of the defense. You are relying on both sides of your defensive line to win and to win one-on-one battles. So for me, Oregon did exactly what they were supposed to do. Let WSU get a bunch of yards. Let Cam Ward throw for 400. Stop him when he's trying to get into the end zone. And they were able to do that, and that was huge in why they were able to win this game. And really, what the score ended up being wasn't the true score. Oregon was in control basically after that first quarter. They were going to win this game, and they weren't going to have to sweat it out.
Yeah, Cam Ward had 6 sacks in that big one. You know, I think it was in the red zone to where it was 4th down, and he just took the sack to get them completely out of it. They were already out of it, but now getting to the Utah Utes and the USC Trojans, the Utes pulled it off right at the buzzer, I believe, with the field goal, 34-32 Utes. I know we talk about Travis Hunter as the best, you know, as being a two-way star. Who's this guy, Sion Vaki?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
I'm going to give that to you. I'm going to give that to you. The kid is a stud going both ways for the Utes.
He caught 2 touchdown passes and accounted for 217 total yards versus the Utes. Let me take a look at the box score. But what else did you see from that game?
Well, it was a classic USC game. The defense struggled. They could not stop this Utah offense. And the problem is Utah right now, they're back to their 3rd string quarterback. They're back to Barnes. This guy, he's shown flashes of greatness, right? When you think about him in the Rose Bowl, he led Utah down to have a big drive where they had the opportunity to win the game and get some points when he's had to be used before in the past, right? if you give him confidence and you let him believe that he can be a good quarterback, like he was earlier this year against Florida, this Barnes kid, he can actually play. Now he's not up to what Cam Rising is, and now in Utah, you're not going to have Cam Rising this whole year. He's already petitioning for a medical red shirt, so he's basically declared that he's not going to play this whole season. So you're stuck with Barnes and with Johnson. So if he can get started early like he did against USC and get confidence and feel like he can play good football, he's going to play good football. Momentum is a real thing, and you could see it in this USC-Utah game. Now, the big thing here, right, is USC was down early. They come back. Their defense starts getting stops. Caleb Williams looks like a goat again. They're driving down. They're making big plays. They're scoring. They get the lead. And then instantly that defense goes back to poo, where they go back into this prevent defense. They let Utah pick them apart. And then Barnes makes a big play with his legs. Yeah, he's an athletic quarterback. He ain't that athletic. He shouldn't be able to have a big run at the end of the game to set themselves up and basically end your season. So you went to you went to USC, this team who at the beginning of the year, we're talking about a national championship contender. And before we even get to November, they are already basically eliminated from the playoffs. So I'm interested to see how the rest of this season goes for them, because this is an easy point where you can just pack it in. You look at Caleb Williams right now, you've got Acho on X on Twitter going out and saying, well, he should just be done. He should just be done for the rest of the year. You can't play for anything. You're not going to get anything. You're already the number one pick. Just be done. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I agree with not playing in a bowl game, but you still can go out and make big plays, get some endorsement deals. 2 lost teams have gotten in before. You'd have to run the table, go perfect, get into the Pac-12 championship, and win again, and then hope a bunch of other things goes your way. That's not going to happen for this USC team. But now you get the opportunity to play spoiler. And this USC team seems primed because they get to play both Washington and Oregon later on in November. This seems like the perfect opportunity for this USC team to reach up and snake bite one of the better teams in the Pac-12. It's the ultimate Pac-12 story. Or they're going to pack it in and go home and take their ball and just be done. I mean, shoot, Lincoln Riley's already missed 2 weeks of 2 days of practice this week.
Yeah, what have you heard about Lincoln Riley? I heard that he might be sick, or I also saw a rumor that he was leaving the Chicago Bears headquarters today. I don't know how much truth there is to that.
I don't know how much I would buy into him going to Chicago. I would definitely say that, when you have a sickness with your head coach, that's a big deal, because a lot of these coaches, they're addicted to football. I have played for, I've heard stories of, and I know friends who were coaches and are coaches still, who literally slept on air mattresses. They had beds get built into their office. They don't leave the facility. So when they're sick, it doesn't matter. I'm not going home. I'm already home because I'm at the facility and I don't leave. And I have this, unhealthy, toxic relationship with football. So for him to miss, it's a big deal. Now, I'm not going to totally buy into, he's flying out and he's at Carolina or he's at Chicago or insert NFL team here that is doing poorly this season. I don't know if I buy that, but I do buy that it's a big deal. And if your head coach is already missing a practice or two, that might make it easier for a lot of these players who came there for a national championship that are already eliminated to go, you know what? I don't need to practice that hard this week. I don't need to put my body on the line. I'm a little banged up. I'm sore in my hamstring. I'm sore in my quad. I don't want to risk an injury. I'm going to sit out this week when I probably should be playing.
And plus, they're just playing Cal, right? So,
right. Well, not just Cal, like the rest of the way, you've got, 4 or 5 games left this season? You're going all the way up until Thanksgiving. They're actually a week earlier because they started the season earlier. But you have some big games on there that I could see team guys getting ready for that want to play spoiler, but I could also see this team just pack it in and just, hey, we're done. We're bad on defense. We're bad on, we're great on offense, but we're bad on defense. We're done.